Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak Extra. So, of course, today we've been talking about this critical issue that has been at the forefront of a national discourse, which is the recent demolitions of properties in the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT. Now, the exercise, which has left many residents without their homes or livelihoods, has sparked intense debate about the management of the Land Use Act in Nigeria. The demolitions, which were carried out by the Federal Capital Territory, that's the administration, FCTA, has been justified as necessary to restore order and sanity to the nation's capital. However, many have questioned the timing, the manner, and impact of the exercise, arguing that it has disproportionately, I beg your pardon on that, affected vulnerable communities and exacerbated the housing crisis in the Federal Capital Territory. So we are going to analyze the FCT demolitions and their implications for the Land Use Act in Nigeria. And we are joined by Dr. Patrick Pillah, a renowned public affairs commentator, lecturer at the Veritas University of Abuja, and also an author of about several books, which he has written an amazing book on the land policy administration and development of the FCT Act Abuja. And that is something that we have to give kudos to people that tend to break down, difficult conversations for Nigerians to understand. So we have Dr. Pillah in the studio here to do justice to today's topic. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Ma'am.
A pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, Doctor, let's start by the underlying issues, driving this FCT demolition. Now, there's been a lot of concerns about how this Land Use Act of 1978 is not really, favoring a lot of Nigerians as it should. What is your take on that? How do you think this issue got us here?
Well, the FCT Act of 1976 gives us a clearer picture of what FCT is. The framework that the FCT as a territory is extrapolated in the FCT Act, which gives the minister all the powers that he is now exercising. There are other areas that the minister can be less feasible, and that is the establishment of Land Use and Allocation Committee. If the Land Use and Allocation Committee is established, it's supposed to be made up of prominent members, honest members of the citizen of the country, who will advise the minister on who to allocate land, how to administer the territory, how to do revocation, and subsequent demolitions if necessary. Demolition is the least of the actions of the Honorable Minister. So we expect that not too long, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory should set up this committee, Land Use and Allocation Committee, to be able to guard it, to be able to moderate him before the bigger house, National Assembly, will call all of them to order. The Land Use Act of 1978 is applicable to whole country. All of us are involved, and what it is that the whole land belongs to the government. And if land belongs to government, how do you distribute it? Is the distribution by nationalizing all lands? No. Is it through marketing the most competitive? No. Government comes in to play in its role of providing for even the less privileged. The Land Use Act provides that even those who are jobless, even those who are mad, that is mentally deranged, could also benefit from land. And that is why you have areas of park and gardens. People go in there and sit down. Talking about this, demolitions, many people come in, see land spaces, and in a twinkle of an eye, think that nothing is happening there. Meanwhile, there is a master plan. of the Federal Capital Territory. More than 200-page document that guides the activities of the Land Department. Land Department is not only land administration, you have development control, you have the Settler Towns Agency, you have many others. There are about 3 of urban and regional planning. You have even the tribunal. The tribunal that is set up. The purpose is it that, look, this person have run foul of an item. What do we do with it? Instead of running to the courts, you run to the tribunal. Sitting at the apex of the tribunal is a licensed planner who sees and knows what you are talking about. If there are areas he could come in, he would definitely ask you to come in. If it's areas you can condone, he will ask you to be condoned. Like for land uses. You have places that are places of worship. You have places that are parks and gardens. You have places that are reserved for residential, industrial, and others. If it is breached, something must be done. Is it too much that cannot be condoned? If it can be condoned, let it be condoned so that it's not too rigid, because the master plan is not supposed to be a religion.
But even at that, I mean, there's been a lot of concerns of insecurity, you know, due to the complaint that there's shanties and all of that is causing insecurity, and we've seen how insecurity have escalated in the nation's capital alone. But Doctor, in your findings of all of this, who is at fault for buildings that have been built illegally? Who is at fault? Because if we're saying the minister is in charge of making sure that the master plan of the FCT is, adhered to, we've had past ministers. So why was there not a check on making sure that the building or even the purchase of the land in the first place never happened? That way, vulnerable Nigerians don't fall prey to, situations like losing their homes and properties.
I appreciate people who come into Abuja, because the influx of the people in Abuja became almost uncontrollable. The whole city of Abuja is estimated that at the end of it, we should have 3 million people. But if you look at it now, we have almost about 5 million Nigerians living in the Federal Capital City. I am not even talking of Federal Capital Territory. There are other ones also living in Maraba, other, towns, outskirts, more than what you have. Why is that so? Because of insecurity around the country, people find solace in coming into Abuja. You have religious riots in various parts of the country. People run into Abuja. And the facilities are just there. The facilities for a very long time had been the Federal Capital City Phase 1. Phase 2 is just being built. Phase 3 is a scratch. Phase 4 is almost a Dogo area. Government has done various policies trying to see how these places could also be accommodated, but have found issues, with funding. You must have heard of the land swap. That was a replacement to funding. Come in, develop the infrastructure, and we'll give you the land. Then you have mass housing. Come in, get the houses through, get people to live in there, we will provide the infrastructure, and you will live. But all this, it is at the doorstep of government. People are swindled because everybody wants to live within the Federal Capital City, not even the territory. Government should do something, particularly in areas of the development of the satellite towns. If the infrastructures in the satellite towns are developed, a lot of people will want to live there, because the land in the satellite towns are even bigger. They are of low density. So people would like to even live there. And then the transport system. If the transportation system is also completed, people would love to live in Abaji and come to work in Gariki. If I have a train to catch, I can always take a trip and come over. The same thing as the headquarters of satellite towns is in Karachi. People can live in Karachi and come to work in the federal capital city. That is what I'm trying to talk about. I do not want to blame anybody, but I'm thinking the situation get back to this. And government must rise to it to be able to act, because it is continuous. When you want to pick up a piece of land in Abuja, you cry because you don't know where you are going to get the correct one. Many resort to going to ages, and even the setting of ages was also done in order to alleviate these problems. But for today, what is going to happen?
All right, Doctor, let's talk about a balance when it comes to this. And now there is need for the FCT to make sure it's hold on to the master plan. But then where do we balance the need for urban planning and also the rights of the citizens that will lead to development, but also making sure the citizens are fine?
The citizens themselves must be well educated. You see, we are combining the land tenure system in the south and the land tenure system in the north. The land tenure system in the south gives out land to families, while the land tenure system in the north, land is held by the emirs on behalf of the people. People must be able to recognize that it is government that gives of land in the federal capital city, in the federal capital territory, and not chiefs, not indigenes, no other person but government. The moment we know all this, we put all our foot forward, ensuring that the best is achieved.
So let's talk about the implications of this demolition in Nigeria on a more broader level. Doctor, it's already happening. A lot of people are crying out. It has led to the National Assembly sitting down on this particular issue. What do you think this would mean for not only the country, but for the people as well?
Talking about life camp, I was privileged to be in FCT much earlier when the life camp system started. Why the life camp? The life camp was given out to companies that were operating various projects in the Federal Capital Territory. Most of those camps were occupied by foreigners, mostly whites. The people working there were also, another camp was set up in Nyanya. If you see the camp in Nyanya, that was for the less, the workers, the laborers. That is why it is called labor camp. Now, along the line, government found itself insufficient to provide housing for generality of Nigerians that moved in 1991. They now encourage a policy called mass housing. And so many companies were encouraged to come in, pick up hectares of land, and build mass housing. These companies also responded. That is, these companies staying in life camp also responded by also applying that they be giving their own accommodation. Many of them were considered, and approvals were given, and certificate of occupancy was obtained. I am surprised that Polosa, at this stage, what I'm saying here was in 1991. Up to now, this should be more than how many years now, they are unable to get their certificate of occupancy. It didn't cost so much, because you needed to pay for the buildings that are on it, which invariably were built from the contract sum, and so we are even free to government, and obtain their certificates. If they obtain their certificate, all this news you wouldn't have been hearing. Because the certificates specify what to be done, how the buildings are to take place, who pays what, rents are paid, premiums are paid, registrations are done. Until you get all this, that you can hold government responsible for not encroaching on your land. And even if you get all that paid, government also has the right to once in a long while check on your premises to see what they are doing there, you are doing there, or tenants are doing there. The process that results to development, it's a long process. First, you are notified through notice of intention to withdraw. Second, another notice is taken. Third notice is given.
To withdraw from what? From not using the land?
Yes. The first thing would have been that they would have pasted on the note on your door, look, government is interested in this. You will now come to their office in Zone 6 here. The director of demo control and all staff who have been elevated to the director knows what I'm talking about. Alhaji Mukhtar Galadima. He knows what I'm talking about. If you throw up with your papers, he will check. Find out whether they are all genuine papers. Have you effected payments? If you have effected payment, how much are you owing or how much are you not owing? But if you fail to respond, he will take another step. And the next step is that he will seek the Honorable Minister's approval to bring down the building. And when he seeks the minister's approval to bring it down, the minister definitely must do a due diligence, finding out whether these things are done or not done. And until that is done, he can now approve that the building should be brought down. If you have any options or objections, you go to the tribunal. I told you about the planning tribunal that is set up by the FCT Act. For all breaches, you go to the tribunal and you face the tribunal. Tribunal is made up, the chairman is the planning officer, who is not a judge, who is not a lawyer. So he knows what we're talking about. We're talking of a developer and, and a planner role. He will come in. What was wrong would have been corrected. I am very sad that it resulted to demolition because I know the officers, I know Paul personally.
Yeah.
I know his contribution to the development of the Federal Capital Territory.
Doctor, we all talk about the demolition and all of that, but you mentioned earlier, just before I get on to the next question, for the purpose of Nigerians that want to acquire a land in the FCT, who should be the first body of the government that they should approach?
If you want to get land in Abuja, you pick up application forms from Aegis.
Okay, so the Aegis first.
Yes. You pick up application forms from Aegis. I think it cost 100,000. Pick up your application forms from Aegis. The moment you pick your application forms from Aegis, you can now begin to probe Aegis as to when allocations will be made. If the Honorable Minister had now set up Land Use and Allocation Committee, they are supposed to meet thrice a year. March, August, and December. At which time various applications that are made will be brought forward. Layouts that are available for distribution will also be brought forward. In my argument, I had always said that we should be able to give people land people that can build, not people that can hold. Others have it for the purpose of prospecting. Those are the people we should try to avoid. Government has done various reforms to be able to encourage those who have the capital to develop, should be given. If you do not have money to develop, why do you seek to get application?
All right.
I remember, government gives only 2 years for you to develop. But there is a snag there. The snag is that these places are not serviced. So you cannot also just jump into development because they are right inside the bush. That is the cause of demolition. That is why people now prefer going through the back door and getting lands that are already serviced, were earlier allocated to other people, and are now selling them at very high cost prices.
So what are the repercussions? What are the punishment for people that are caught that have done this?
Well, that is for the court to decide.
So most the court of the time handles it.
Most of the time, the court decides it.
What happened to the tribunal you made mention of?
If you go through the tribunal will, if it is government, will be made to pay. How? They will be asked give another plot. If demolitions are done, and you will pay compensation and several other things to at least mitigate the pains of the developer.
Okay. Doctor, I want to talk about this organization. We've had NGO make some allegations about homes being sold to only the elites in the FCT, in the past 10 years. And they said that this is something that that's the Center for Transparency and Accountability, saying over 70% of the land allocations in Abuja between 2010 and 2020 are sold to just rich people. And when it comes to land, especially in Nigeria, it should be for everyone. Everyone has, a 50-50 chance or 100 chance of getting the land. So how can we fight, corruption in order to make sure every citizen feel I belong?
Well, when I was talking about reforms, in one of the reforms of past FCT ministers, they brought about what was called planning offices at the area councils. And the purpose of establishing planning offices at the area councils was to encourage people at the grassroots to obtain land, and at a very affordable prices. But the result after 20 years is that we have multiple allocations coming from that system. To the extent that I do not know what government intend to do to be able to tie this, to stop this tide. It's so very bad. One allocation paper, 20 persons will be claiming. But the whole purpose of it was that Nigerians who are living in the area councils should also benefit. But that was abused. And during the time of El-Rufai in 2004 to 2007, he retrieved what was rightly his, which is that allocations must be given by the Honorable Minister and not any other person. So he retrieved that power that was given to the area council chairman. So today, the area council chairmen are also not supposed to allocate land. But if you see people, they run to them, and they are politicians, they will tell you what you want to hear. But the truth of the matter is that something must be done to be able to clean up that. If we are going to take the political will to clean up the area council allocations that were done, bring up all the layouts that were done at the area council. And when I talk about the area council, I'm talking about Buari, Abaji, Gwagwalada, then municipal here. Municipal we have other lands in Karu, Jikoi, and other places. To worse is even allocations made at the airport road, which certainly fell within the Federal Capital City, which should have been strictly the business of the Honorable Minister. So when things like this happen, you just know that you just wait. The only thing that will solve it is the bulldozer.
That's really sad.
Very sad.
Doctor. That is really sad. It just shows that while some people are benefiting from using corrupt practices, other people at the end of the day receive, the backlash of this, and it changes someone's life
so
immensely.
Much.
It's really sad. But then we thank you, Doctor, for even writing a book to make it easy for Nigerians to understand the implications of buying land without following due process, and avoiding, sad situation like what is happening. Thank you so much, Dr. Patrick Pillah, for joining us. Truly appreciate you today.
Thank you very much, madam.
Right.
Bless you.
All right. That was Dr. Patrick Pillah, a renowned public affairs commentator, of course, a lecturer at the Veritas University and author of several books. Now, he has expertise in insights on the complex issues surrounding land use in Nigeria, including the legal framework, policy challenges, and also human impacts on demolition. A really insightful topic here. We hope that you, of course, garnered a lesson or two from this conversation. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we will take a look at the front pages of the national dailies. Stay with us.